Well, today I plan to preach live for the first time in 20 months, and today both my kids woke up with colds and one with a slight fever. Facebook is all kinds of problematic, but it has its uses. I was able to chat with friends who are pastors with children all over the country and with some friends who are epidemiologists, so I feel like I have an expert solution. Stay home, keep others safe. So today I plan to preach live for the first time in 20 months, and I miss it. I do not enjoy preaching to a phone in an empty room with no response. I miss it so much. I miss so much of the old ways that aren't even really all that old, though after this particular 20 months, they, like me, feel kind of ancient. I plan to preach live for the first time in 20 months, and I plan to preach on the word release, or as Sandhya Jha says, non-attachment. They looked at the passages in this early Advent and rejoiced that we get one of those weird passages that makes us squirm a little bit. They looked at this passage in an early Advent and they identified the theme of non-attachment. I changed it to release because, well, basically I was a little too attached to alliteration with our word remember from last week. Remember, release. This morning, as the thermometer changed from green to red, I was invited to practice what I had not yet had the opportunity to preach, and release. And really, 20 months ago, we were all handed a very firm invitation to release. Whether we were ready or not, the world was about to change. And as much as preaching in person has been an essential part of my adult life, it's just something on the perimeters of life. Mark and Daniel both show us that the very foundations of the world we know can and will change. And most importantly, that as we release the way things are, God will show us what St. Paul calls a more excellent way. The unencumbered way of love that the Eternal One wrote this world to embody. Sandhya says in Mark 13, 1-8, Jesus warns of all the things that can and will collapse. A part of preparation for new things like Christ's coming, and at Advent I would add Christ's coming again and again and again and again. Christ's coming and overturning so much that we are used to is not attachment or acceptance of impermanence. Sandhya asks, what might we give away, or what grudges might we have to let go of, or what physical things or places might we not put so much stock in, so we actually create space for the coming of Christ this week of Advent? Let's sit with that question again. What might we give away, or what grudges might we have to let go of, or what physical things or places might we not put so much stock in, so that we actually create space for the coming of Christ this week of Advent? Today, as we travel with our ancestors in faithfulness, I invite us to travel with the prophet Daniel. Daniel was repeatedly asked to lean into non-attachment. He holds non-attachment for his own life, for his way of living, for the need for things to return the way they were before exile, or to settle into exile and succeed in the present life at the cost of the life to come, or at the cost of generations and generations and generations to come. In today's passage, Daniel invites us to release a need to understand as we lean into the wild power of God to bring justice, as the princes and rulers of the time, as the systems and billionaires rage in selfish circles of harm and dominion. We need not worry. There is a Prince of Peace. There is a ruler of righteousness, or more accurately, a liberator of love who works to bring justice in ways we cannot comprehend yet. Today, as we travel with our ancestors in faithfulness, I invite us to travel with Jesus, who, like Daniel, repeatedly holds on to non-attachment of his own life, but a wild attachment to following a wild and wonderful spirit. While the temple may collapse, while everything that surrounds us may be kicked up into chaos, Jesus continues to call us to faith. Like the utter chaos of the process of birth, the loss of our systems that no longer serve us, that in fact only serve to marginalize God's beloved people and God's beloved creation, that chaos is actually the birth pangs, the beautiful birth pangs of something new. The good news today in this passage is from Jesus is that we know all of this can fall away so that something more wonderful can be. Something we can't yet imagine is being born in this chaos. So we have non-attachment. Today, as we travel with our ancestors in faithfulness, I invite us to travel with St. Paul, who had an illustrious career that filled him with a sense of self-righteousness. And when Christ called him to abandon it, to spread loving liberation and make tents, he walked away from all that he had known. He walked away from his own renown tied up in that very temple that Jesus is talking about in today's gospel. Today, as we travel with our ancestors in faithfulness, I invite us to travel with Thomas Merton, who says, the importance of detachment from things, the importance of poverty, is that we are supposed to be free from things that we might prefer to people. Wherever things have become more important than people, we are in trouble. Today, as we travel with our ancestors in faithfulness, I invite us to travel with Mary Oliver, who learned through pain and loss to love wildly, to let go, and to always ask, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? As we move toward a time of meditation, we return to Sanja's question. What might we give away, or what grudges might we have to let go, or what physical things or places might we need not to put so much stock in so that we can actually create space for the coming of Christ this Advent week. And we lean into Mary Oliver's benediction. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things. To love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes, to let it go, let it go. And her sacred question, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? I invite you to join me in meditation.